I'm sure that you know what is happening
Oh
in
yeah,
Washington and the attack, and then Donald Trump coming out and talking about what has happened, and they got this guy, 31-year-old, and who tried to do something, and I think nobody knows what is happening right now. It's so strange. You remember, this is the third
yeah.
attack on Donald Trump, and
Hmm.
none of them, the first one, the second one, we don't know what has happened, and nobody's talking about that. And
Yep.
the Trump administration didn't put anything out to inform the public opinion in the United States and outside of the United
Yep.
States.
Yep.
Yeah. What is, before getting to the conflict between Iran and the United States and other issues, what is your understanding of that?
Um, I'm leaning toward this is a staged event, and I'll tell you why. Either that or the NSA, the FBI, and the Capitol Police are the biggest bunch of moronic Keystone Cop imbeciles I've ever seen in my life. Because true, he didn't get into the actual dinner. He was in the first rooms. But you start listening to, first of all, you start listening to um, what these people are saying that were guests. Security was crap. There's
It
no
is.
metal detector frames. Nobody was checking handbags. Nobody was checking the that's two, three. Nobody's checking IDs. Four, they were just waiving their tickets, so nobody's checking the actual tickets, taking them physically. QR code. Most tickets will be QR coded, so you put them in QR code. Go, well, maybe have a picture of the person that's coming in on that ticket. They have technologies like that these days. I mean, there's only the president of the United States, the vice president, the minister, and all the others sitting there, parts of Congress, and all that. That nothing major, not a major target. So nothing's being checked, and this is straight from the people that were at this gala. If you look on the video, he streaks past the first security point. So he's got a shotgun, supposedly they said, a pistol, and a couple knives. He could have had a suicide vest if he really was going on it. How much explosive could he pack on that? Quite a bit. He just run. There's a table. There's a bunch of bored-looking security guys, and he just runs past them. And then and then they all started running after him to shoot at him. It's like, Jesus,
it's amazing watching.
Oh, no, it was even worse. I'll tell you. There's another video. And I guess this is the red carpet room because they had the camera set up on the red carpet. I guess, the celebrities walk out and hi, well, so the journalists that are there are down on the ground. The security guys, I'm assuming they're probably NSA. They got their heckler and cocks up, and they're they got the microphones up, and they're all screaming, where's the shooting? Where's the shooting? Where's it come from? And they're just going in different directions, which tells you what? There is no central control. In a situation like that, you would normally, if you're running it properly, you'd have a central control. Guys sitting there looking at the cameras. Okay, so they're shooting here, and what you're doing is you're telling everybody either flex over to this room because you need backup, or stay in place, cover the doors, or everything's secured. Something you have somebody on top who's communicating with all the other aspects walking around. All these guys are screaming to each other. Where's the fight? Where's the shooting? Where's the shooting? Nobody knows what's going on. So he's telling you it's either absolutely inadequate central control. There is no central control. And considering they've been doing this every single year for, I don't know, man, 60 years, 70 years, 50 years, definitely not yesterday, not last year as the first one. This is a pretty standard thing. You'd think they would have security nailed down. They do it in the same damn building every single time. And additionally, so this guy was staying at the hotel. Under normal circumstances, 2 weeks out, you already have people coming in to secure the perimeters for something like that. When you've got presidents coming, to see the guest list, check the guest list, either close the hotel down during the event or right after the event, right before the event, or at least not allow anybody down for security purposes. Apparently, they didn't do any of that either. So it's amazing. It's amazing. So either this is a total imbecilic, 100% screw up on the face of the security forces in the U.S., the presidential guard, and so on. And by the way, they got Vance out before they got Trump out.
Yeah. That was
love that.
yeah, what is that?
you know, was it by choice? Was it by Uh, or this is a staged event? And if this is, I mean, I'm sure the guy that was doing the shooting didn't know he was being propped it up as a staged event. And there's a reason I'll tell you. I think that may for that too in a second. Um, Look, the Israelis have Trump's psych profile down pat. Trump's afraid of being assassinated. They convinced them that Iran was sending assassin team to kill him, so he had to go strike now. Right? We know that he stopped talking about it, but he was talking about it a lot at first. He didn't really do well for selling. It just made him look paranoid. So I guess somebody told him to stop talking about it. But the fact is that he's already said, well, it's more likely not linked to Iran, but you never know. And and we're going to defeat Iran no matter what. Which is funny because I thought they've been winning for what, like 58 days now. Every day been winning against Iran, so you have to still defeat Iran because you've been winning bigly every day for 2 months. Okay, so maybe I don't understand anything. Um, so this could be something that was staged because we know that CIA, MI6, Mossad, they're basically one family at this point. So they need Trump to get Trump pushed back into a full scale war. What do? You feed his paranoia. And there you go. That's his paranoia, being assassinated. So which at his age, I don't know if I'd be that would be a paranoia issue. At that point, oh yeah, you may shave off a few years, maybe, but his health isn't exactly the best. So, but that just seems like that, and I'll tell you why I think also this could be an issue. There's a guy here that I know uh, by name of uh, Mikalizzi. So Kevin Mikalizzi, he used to work for DoD and CIA as a contractor, and their job was forming social opinions. They worked with McCain. There was a team of them that worked with McCain in Ukraine and Kiev during the revolts. His last project, even though he was already in Russia, and his second wife is Russian, so he moved to Crimea. And he and I'm not telling any secrets. I interviewed him before, and he told me all of this. So I'm not giving away any of his secrets that haven't been out before. So he was already working, but as he was saying, what they do is they have a server, set of servers. They would scan the local social media, um, make copies of people's IDs, change the names, maybe change a picture, and shove it up as on there as a new person. And these are all just drones. These are bots. The reason they scan it is because when, especially at that time, when the system tried to make artificial ones, people would pick them out. There's always enough mistakes. People would pick them out as being fishy or being artificial. So they just take real people's profiles and just copy the profiles. Well, and then they work together to form opinion. For example, they put an article out and everybody's liking it, but this is all bots. If somebody comes in there and says something against it, they just bot swarm them and attack them and so on. But while I was doing an interview with him, what he said though, he knew that there were also other teams that were working on individual people, preparing shooters, working them over, fixing them in the head, and when they needed to, they'd push them toward doing some kind of incident. So when the U.S. government needed to pass some kind of bill or need to do something that the people weren't paying attention, they'd push one of these shooters out to do a mass shooting. And while everybody's looking this way, they're pushing through what they need over here. Cynical as hell, yeah. I mean, if your own government's preparing mass murders against its own population, you've got big issues. But this is what he told me. So, is it God's honest truth? I don't know. But if it is, if you've got agencies in the security services in the U.S. preparing shooters for when you need them, that tells you a lot. That tells you a lot what you're dealing with at this point.
Yeah. I don't see Donald Trump, his administration being able or capable of informing people, and they don't have a good record in that direction. With the case of the Charlie Kirk and the assassination against Donald Trump himself, they don't care about
Oh,
the
nobody
people. They
knows.
don't. Nobody knows what has
No.
happened, and the other thing is the case of negotiations in Islamabad. It seems that the latest one is that the government in Islamabad has removed all the restrictions in Islamabad, just showing us that there is no negotiations happening, and they're not going
Yeah.
to be. For now, we don't have any sort of negotiations between the two parties, and we had Iranian foreign minister going to Islamabad, then going to Muscat, getting back to Islamabad,
Hmm.
some remodifying or somehow modifying the some of the basic points in that plan that they have prepared.
Hmm.
It seems that they mostly are talking about the red lines. They're not going to negotiate with the United States on nuclear program and the Strait of Hormuz for the time being, because the other issues are more important. And the other thing is what Donald Trump said. He said later on, after canceling the trip of Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, he said that we're winning big today. Today he said we're winning. And then he came out with some sort of strange statement. And he says that Iran's oil infrastructure will spontaneously explode in 3 days before something to do, because of something to do with the nature, with nature. Here is what he said, Stat.
So when you have lines of vast amounts of oil pouring through your system, if for any reason that line is closed because you can't continue to put it into containers or ships, which has happened to them, they have no ships because of the blockade. What happens is that line explodes from within, both mechanically and in the earth. Something happens where it just explodes, and they say they only have about 3 days left before that happens. And when it explodes, you can never, regardless, you can never rebuild it the way it was. In other words, it will always be, if you rebuild it, it's hard to rebuild it all, but it would only be about 50% of what it is right now. So it's a very powerful thing that takes place, sort of having to do with nature.
Sort of having
What
to
is
do with
he?
a moron that doesn't understand what he's talking about. Well, that's painful. Look. When you switch off, when you close the valves, you can have some damage to the actual well that's inside, depending how much pressure is down there. Sometimes it depressurizes. Sometimes it can damage the well. That can happen. That's not necessarily guaranteed it's going to happen. It's not going to explode on its own. It's not self combust. I don't know what. I can't remember. Well, no, I can imagine because I've talked to people who knew Trump personally, and they all say he's an imbecile. He doesn't read books. He doesn't know anything. He even asked a friend or a buddy of mine who was in special forces. Uh, if the Russians had special instruments to make bullets out of snow and ice. It was serious. Yeah, let that sink in. Um, uh, so moving on forward, yeah, Iran may have some well damage. It can, but this is not something that cannot be fixed. If the pressure falls fully or enough that it's not coming up on its own, there are plenty of instruments now in use that can be used to repressurize a well. It used to be in the old days if a well pressure fell enough, you just clogged the well with a cement plug, and you went and drilled another well. And that takes time, obviously, but it can be done. Nowadays, I mean, for the last 40 years, 35 years, you have a whole set of different things you can use for shallow wells. You have pumps, the big head pump going up and down on a pump that can do water. It can do oil too, just as well. But that's for shallow wells. You've got motors that you can push down, and it's a rotor, that starts spinning and it's pushing the oil up. You have what's called gas mandrels, which is you put a mandrel down, which is a set of tubes, and they pump natural gas into it, and you get a carbonation of the oil. It's the same thing if you have a highly carbonated drink or like a Pilsen beer, and you stick a straw in it, and it'll start walking its way up the straw because the gas is pushing the water up, the liquid up. Same concept. You gasify that oil by pumping natural gas into it, and it pushes the oil up there. I mean, there's a lot of different technologies that have developed, and they were developed because a lot of wells were leaving 20, 30, 40% of the product in the ground because just natural pressure drops. And some wells never had, they may be full, but they don't have any natural pressure to begin with. So if there wasn't natural pressure, it wasn't pushing its way up. So there's that. And even if it's damage to the well, a lot of the damage can be fixed. In worst case scenario, it has to be re-drilled. Which again, yes, it would take time, it would take more money, but this isn't the end. And no, it's not going to explode on its own. Trump doesn't know much about anything. He probably, whatever he's being told is probably grasping at like 10% keywords, and then I've seen people like that. They grasp at a key phrase and they repeat it constantly, and other people that are just as dumb as they are think that they're smart. While everybody else is going, frick, just shut up, man, just shut up. And I've seen people like that in corporations that I worked in actually go up in rank. Because they just kept repeating the phrase of the day. And everybody above them were stupid enough to not understand that they're stupid. Because when you have lots of stupid people, they don't understand or they don't want to admit anybody else is stupid. And this is what we're getting right now. I mean, it's Trump.
Yeah.
So, by the way, if this was the case, all his Saudi and all his Bahraini and all these other buddies of his would be suffering the exact same thing at this point and worse. So
Yeah.
It's Trump.
It's Stas, when it comes to the military buildup in the Middle East, we know that since the ceasefire started, the United States has been transferring, sending a lot of weapons to the region. What is the situation with, they have 3 aircraft carriers right now, more 10,000 soldiers to the region. It's going to be 60,000, something like that. And in terms of ammunition, I don't know, missiles, interceptors, what did they send so far? What is your understanding of the current situation if they start fighting Iran, if they somehow go after some sort of fight and open new front or somehow the old front?
Well, first of all, 2 aircraft carriers couldn't do anything. So we have 3 aircraft carriers now that can't do anything except maybe starve their sailors. Have you seen what they're feeding them these days? Jesus, that can't be even 2,000 calories a day. I mean, this is probably getting towards starvation level calorie count. That looks like post-Soviet Union in the Soviet space, Russia, Ukraine, other areas like that. Soldiers were often begging on the streets for food. And a lot of units, ships included, that would park the ship or there's a brigade unit or some of that sort, airborne or armor, they'd send everybody home on extended leave. Because they had no food to give them. They were out of food. They'd go home and let your mother feed you. Come back when we get some food. We'll let you know. Because logistics are broken down. Everything's broken down. You're looking at basically the same thing right now in the U.S. Navy. I mean, my God, when you're giving some guy, somebody calculated up that it looks like they're getting fed about 14, 15, maybe 1,600 calories a day. That's below starvation level of rations for a man that's not constantly active and running up and down stairs and back and forth on a large ship that's over 300 meters long. So that's amazing right there. So I don't know what they're going to do. Cruise around in circles and try not to get hit by Iranian ballistic and hypersonic missiles. But on the ground, the U.S. has very limited capability left. Standoff missiles. So those will get used up. After that comes JSOMs, which are pretty limited, even the extended, especially the extended range ones. After that comes JDAMs. And JDAMs are 50 kilometers. or 50 miles. So I guess 80 kilometers. I mean, you have, but anything you're really having to hit deep in, you're going to have to go into Iranian airspace, which means casualties automatically. It just means casualties. So what can Trump do? Well, they can go if we had the softest scenario. I don't remember who was saying this, but they were right. The softest scenario that Trump could do now, because he's not going to back out and leave, he has to do something to, and then scream, "We won." Would be to start bombing again, grab an island, say, and then turn around to people and say, "You see, the Iranians asked us for peace. Now we're leaving because we're going to have them peace." That's probably the safest thing he can now do, short of, well, the safest thing for all human beings except for Trump would be to say, "Okay, that's enough. We're leaving." But he's not going to do that. He's got to have a win, some kind of win. Grab an island. Never mind how many troops you're going to lose and trying to hold it. But grab an island and say, "Oh, I see. We've shown the Iranians we can do whatever we want. We grab 1/10 of 1% of their territory. See, they're afraid of us now." Just something like that. As ludicrous as that sounds, and then sell it to his what's left of his mega base, which will believe anything he says. Everybody that doesn't has left a long time ago. Worst case scenario is, of course, two worst case scenarios. One, they try to actually invade Iran with 50, 60,000 men, which means they're going to have a whole hell of a lot of dead people and a whole hell of a lot of wounded people, probably to the at least 50%, 60% casualty rates. What are you going to do with 60,000 men against a fortress country with alpine mountains running in rows, built up fortifications on passes, and 1 million men under arms in a defensive position with internal supply lines? What are you going to do to that? There's not much you can do to that, especially with 60,000 men. There's not much at all you can do to that except get killed. They can bomb Iran's reactors. The nuclear reactor. They've done it 3 times already. The electric generator to try to shut Iran down. Iran's already said they'll respond to everybody in the region. And Iran has already, by the way, issued a warning. Get the hell out of Dubai. Get the hell out of the United Arab Emirates in general. Get the hell out of Qatar. Get the hell out of all these areas. Get out. They gave a week warning. Get out any which way you can. And the reason is they don't have to go after desalination plants. If it becomes a tick for tat going after energy infrastructure, those desalination plants switch off. And then what happens? As we've discussed before, 45-degree heat, no water, mass die-off. So Iran's doing the humanitarian thing in this case, telling people, get out. Get out while you can. You've got a week, get out. A lot of people won't leave because normalcy bias is what gets a lot of people killed. Well, yesterday was normal, today is normal, so tomorrow will be normal too. Well, no, not necessarily. But that's the situation. So that would be the worst case. I'm sure the Arab allies there are screaming at Trump not to do it. Will Trump listen? I don't know. Will the Israelis? The Israelis are having a great time if this happens. Hell, they claim half that territory for themselves anyways. If there's a lot less people living there, that's good. And if the Straits of Hormuz remain closed, the Israelis are also beating the drum. Let's build pipelines through us so we can make money off of all you. Because, grabbing, trying to take Lebanon's gas fields is never enough while you're exterminating the population. So it's hard to say. I mean, as a peace-loving person, and believe it or not, I am, it may not sound like that all the time, I prefer that Trump just go away. Just go away. Go home. End the stupidity now. But as a realist, I know he's going to do something. I'm just hoping he doesn't do anything too stupid. And whatever he does is going to be stupid. It's just a matter of how stupid are we going to get? How desperate are we going to get? How much are we going to double down to try to save face? And honestly, I of course hope he doesn't do any of it, but I fear he's going to do something really bad and stupid.